I really am scared to death about what's going on in this country. I really believe it is code red. It's 5-alarm fire. It's a revolution that's going on in this country. And I think you have to start using those words. He's attacking every single institution of independent thinking and will continue to build on the legacy, I would argue, of our former president, who I think was one of the most successful presidents in the last century, and that is Joe Biden. And I will defend that to my grave.
California's governor slamming President Trump and defending President Biden amid growing speculation about his White House ambitions. And he's not the only potential 2028 contender speaking out on the former president. Katie Pavlich and Brian Brenberg join us now. It's really interesting. I'm going to play one more about Harris. So she's out on her book tour. She was also asked about defending Biden. Watch.
Are you still reluctant to criticize the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went on...
What exactly would you like to ask? Be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognize his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
It never ends. It never ends. And the reporter was being so polite. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little animated because you see, like, I read it, and then but hearing it is really infuriating, Katie. I've long said that the first Democrat that stands up and puts dramatic distance between the party and Biden will be successful. It doesn't look like it's going to be either of them.
You know, I keep thinking about, okay, so why is it that they feel so dedicated to continuing the defense of Joe Biden? It seemed like during the DNC last year that they were going to move on. They put him on stage and they're moving forward to the new nominee after certain people in the party pushed Biden out after that disastrous debate. But there are actually, when you look at it, a lot of people inside the party who are still very bitter about the fact that they did not allow Joe Biden to continue the race against Donald Trump. They think he had a much better chance of beating Trump than Harris did, and they ended up losing. So they're still trying to satisfy different aspects of their party and these different factions, and one of them is that people feel like Biden was betrayed, despite the fact that we can all see he was incapable of doing another 4 years, and that his entire staff was essentially unavailable to him because they kept him in a very small bubble, and that the American people wanted to move on and didn't think that he was capable of running the country for many more years.
I don't know if Kamala's running or not. I think Gavin Newsom is definitely running for that primary bid. He talked about the CHIPS and you're the money man, okay? He praised Biden for the CHIPS Act.
Right.
The infrastructure bill, and the work he did on the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act.
The work he did on the IRA?
Which was almost $2 trillion, which I believe landed us squarely in the area of inflation.
Yeah, and 9% inflation. If that's the leg you're standing on, you might want to find a chair because you've got nothing going for you. There's this sort of thing happening in the Democratic Party where they're playing a lot of make-believe right now. And I know every politician has to characterize their reality, but when you're leaning on words like code red and fascist or Nazi, depending on the day, or we got a king for a president, free buses are going to solve everything, that's a make-believe world. And maybe the far left of your party likes that because that's the world they help create. But I think most Americans say, you're talking about a president that I saw on the debate stage. And I can tell you, I doubt he was as sharp behind closed doors as he was on that stage, because if he was, I'd have seen it on that stage. That was his biggest stage, and I think we saw the real him then.
Katie, you mentioned something that I've always thought from the very beginning, was it's just like watching the spokespersons of the White House, is that I was like, they don't get to see him.
No.
This is not coming from him. It's like from the chief of staff or from somebody else, not directly from him. So Ian Sams was one of the spokespeople, and he had testimony at one of these hearings that Comer held, and this is what he said about his one-on-one meetings with Biden.
How often would you say that you interacted with the president in person?
I interacted with him pretty infrequently.
So, weekly, monthly, what are we talking about?
Very infrequent. I think I met with the president a handful of times during my tenure in the White House.
But to the best of your recollection, 4 meetings, 2 were in person.
2 that were, the 2 that I described to you that I, at the very onset in the Oval, one was a Zoom where he was at Camp David.
So 2 in-person meetings.
Sure, at least that.
And then this was him, though, on July 2nd of 2024, after the Biden-Trump debate.
When I deal with him, he's sharp, he's asking tough questions. That's the President Biden that so many of us experience every single day. Someone who's asking the tough questions so that we as staff can be sharp.
How would he know?
I mean, it almost speaks for itself.
It definitely speaks for itself. The Biden that we know and see every single day, and now he's admitting that he actually didn't have access, which, to your point, was very clear from the beginning that the spokespeople they were just being told a directive. They're going out and trying to do their job, but it was very obvious.
And that is, I would just say that's hard to do as a spokesperson.
Right.
Like, you actually need to say, I need to look you in the eye, Mr. President. What are we thinking? What are you saying? What are we saying? And that, as a spokesman, gives you the confidence to go out and say what
Well, and at that point, there was so much evidence ahead of that. I mean, her report came out, and it was Ian Sam's job to go, this is far before the debate, to go out and say the president is fine, this is a smear job, there's no charges because there's no case. So you had that combined with the debate, and it was very obvious they were lying to everybody.
When you see a guy take a couple cuts in the batting cage, and then you go out to the world and tell him he can hit the long ball, you better have more than a couple cuts in the batting cage. And that's what Ian Sams was doing.
I'm learning so much about baseball today.
I wanted to bring long ball in for you because you used it
I just
so
learned long ball. I'm
earlier
assuming
in
a couple
the day.
cuts.
That's right. Couple swings, maybe a few misses.
You guys got a lot. Why don't you just use like the one word? Just kidding.
For baseball?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of words.
A lot of words.
It's a variety that's fun, Dana.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.